Hey, NCAA, you can't handle the truth. Hey, welcome in. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian on this Thursday, January the 19th. Welcome in. Thanks for being with us. We're always here talking about Michigan and live weekdays at 1 o'clock. And talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And today, we've got another doozy for you. I'm sure you've heard about the situation with the NCAA and Jim Harbaugh. This sounds like it could be quite a long, drawn-out situation. I'm hoping that it's not going to be that way, but it seems like, taking the temperature of Michigan fans, the Michigan fans are ready for a fight. They're looking forward to a long, drawn-out process with Michigan. They've got this hats, and they get the slogan, Michigan. They get a lot of, the teams have it, like us versus everybody. It's Michigan versus everybody. Michigan versus the NCAA. It's literally is what, is going down, and Michigan fans seem to be okay with it. Is that smart to take that approach as a Michigan fan, or is it a little bit like, yeah, let's get it going. Let's get those NCAA crooks, these jokesters. Let's get behind Jim Harbaugh. Let's go. I don't think that's the approach to take. But look, that's my opinion. And like I said, now I was talking mostly the Maize and Blue Review with Michigan fans, and almost to a man there. They're all like, let's go. Let's bring it on. I've all got Jim Harbaugh's back in this situation. Is that the way you feel about it? Well, we got a few things to get to besides what I just talked about. And there's some quarterback recruiting going on. And, some of the points that I am going to make, if things come through over the weekend or the following week, or really over this next month, actually further than that. But if it happens sooner rather than later, there are going to be a lot of people saying, look, man, Michigan is going to be fine. Who cares about all this other stuff? And I think that they'll have a good point if that is able to happen. I'll explain about that tonight. It's a nice day for basketball. The Pistons are actually playing a matinee in Paris. You've got the Spartans in action, and then the varsity takes the court with Michigan in Maryland taking on the Terps, and we'll discuss that game and everything that's happening. But start out with Harbaugh versus the NCAA. Here we are. You wonder why we're here, how we're here. This is why. Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports put up a story today that said negotiations between Michigan and the NCAA have broken down, sources told Yahoo Sports. The NCAA is demanding Jim Harbaugh admit he lied to them. Harbaugh won't, saying level 2 violations occurred, but that he didn't recall when initially questioned. So now what? Now what indeed? So, people ask me, so you think Jim Harbaugh should admit that he lied if he actually didn't recall? Well, there's a point to that. I think the bigger point that Michigan fans are looking at is that, like, the NCAA is a joke. That this thing is it's been out of control. It continues to be out of control. And, I don't say they're unfairly targeting Michigan, but whatever those level 2 violations are, and then there's this, thing about, buying a pizza or whatever for some players that Michigan fans are like, a pizza compared to, millions of dollars is being forked over against the rules. Like, well, let's compare those. Okay, yeah, Michigan with a little jaywalking ticket, compared to, I don't know, grand larceny or something. Like, hey, what, you're going to throw the book at us? That was what it feels like to me. I get all of that. And I feel like, call it self-righteous or just having your coaches back, or let's just get in there and, uncover the answer, uncover the greed, or, this machine that's the NCAA. Let's go. Let's fight them. Is that a good idea? I'm going to say no. I don't think that's a good idea. I think, and they already have had, if Wetzel's got more of a story on this. They have already had, according to that story, some negotiations, and they broke down, and this is where we are at right now. I think that Michigan should do everything that they can to get back to this negotiating table with the NCAA and find a compromise, whatever that could be. Right now, I don't have a great one for you, but could it be something like, Harbaugh admits about a text, or about the coaches watch, or the coaches that were analysts that were on the field, and he says, "Oh yeah, he does admit that," to make the that level one violation that he caught go away, and then this whole thing goes away. And you can say you wouldn't want Jim Harbaugh to lie on purpose to make this, for in a negotiation with the NCAA. And I would look back to just what happened a week or so ago with the NFL. And now you may see this differently. I've come to realize that people do. But Jim Harbaugh, a year ago, after he was done with the Vikings, was quoted that was just going to be a one-time deal. And however you look at that conversation that he had with the Carolina Panthers, it was a phone call. You don't want to technically call that an interview. All right. I think the Zoom that was called an interview with the Denver Broncos, that looked like an interview to me. Now you can say, "Bah, it was the Broncos and they were just having a conversation," and that's not really an interview. I don't know, like that's not the way I see it. It seemed like an interview. And then the idea that he did it and broke his word. Scarcelli yesterday, Jim Scarcelli said, this could have been a situation where Harbaugh took a step back to take two steps forward, and that he did this as a negotiating leverage for Michigan to help Michigan out with their name, image, and likeness package and he wasn't getting anywhere. So they came in over the top with the trump card of acting like he was going to go to the NFL. Look, you can believe that if you want. I don't know, maybe that's exactly what happened. But also you can look at that. There's a point where you could look at that on the other side without believing it or knowing anything or not caring and say, look, he just said a year ago he wasn't going to go to the NFL. And then he lied. He was over there Zooming with the Broncos. And now, they want him to admit that he's lying. And he says, no, I'm telling the truth. So this could be messy, is my point. This could be mudslinging galore. And it doesn't seem to me like it's worth it. Now, there's a saying that is called that goes, discretion is the better part of valor. And I think it works for Michigan in this spot. Find a way, if you have to, whatever it is, eat some humble pie, admit to some things, whatever that goes on, to just get rid of this, to have a compromise and move forward. I don't think, as much as you might be mad and you're upset about other teams paying money and Michigan's doing something minor and other people are doing something major, however you look at that, mudslinging with the NCAA doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Attention that this situation is going to bring Michigan, it's going to be negative attention. People were telling me today, oh, there's always negative attention towards Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Well, you just buckle up and wait, because I got news for you. This situation, Harbaugh against the NCAA, lying, paying recruits millions of dollars, strange bedfellow. This is a wet dream for the media, editors, program directors, talk show hosts. They're going to sink their teeth in this, and you're going to hear so many wild takes. This is going to be the lead, the A block. You know how much over over the next months, if not year, every time Michigan is mentioned in football, it's going to be added that, well, we got the upcoming season. Michigan will kick off against East Carolina amid Harbaugh being taking on the – you're going to get tired of that. Believe me. Now, look, maybe I'm the only one that cares about this. Maybe it's not all that big of a deal. That's what it was pointed out to me. Is like that. Oh, you media types, you guys just get all, excited about this, and you guys start going crazy. But the people don't care about this situation, and high school players are not going to care about this situation. And for that, I don't know. I think that they could care. I think that if it's coming down to a kid going to Michigan and they ask Harbaugh about it, I mean, what's he going to say? I didn't lie. Or if I did, they can't prove it. I mean, is that going to be what they're saying? They can't prove. I mean, that's a pitch to a high school player coming into Michigan. What's going on with all this stuff? A parent may ask Jim Harbaugh. They can't prove anything. We're all set. Come on in. We're going to be fine over the next year or two. Forget every single news outlet and sports outlet that's running wild. Don't believe them. They can't prove any of it. I mean, is that going to be what's being said here? Yeah, we bent some fenders and, bought a couple of tacos. I don't know. Like, that doesn't seem like a really good idea to me. Now, I'm going to take some feedback on this. It's always available for you. And I'm already looking up and I'm seeing some bozo emojis. I don't know if those are affixed for me or if they're sent to the NCAA. Maybe it'll be both. But let's see. Like I told you where the Michigan fans were that I was dealing with today. And they're pretty much like, let's go. Bring on the NCAA. Let's see what the people are saying today. And we will start out at the very top with Steve, who writes in that he gives credit to Jim for standing up to his word. No way he should say he lied when he didn't. I understand that, Steve. Sometimes you do things and it's not so much about what's happening. It's about the big picture and what you can do to ultimately help yourself. Is it really going to help Michigan? If Jim Harbaugh digs in, what's the end result here? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? When you talk about no way he should say he lied or misled them, you could make a case again that he just did that with the NFL. He broke his word because he wanted to leverage Michigan. That was the reason that he did it. It's there's the reason why he did it. And in this case, he may say, well, you know what? Now that I remember that, here was a receipt. He didn't really think. I said, whatever. He tells a white lie. They'll be able to get rid of this. To be able to make a deal. So I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. Stand up to the very end, but is it going to be worth it? Andre says the NCAA should kick rocks. Michigan has admitted to the wrongdoing. The I got you bit is nonsense. Here comes some bozo emojis. Even the two hungriest offensive linemen couldn't pull a bill of more than $100, probably GTFO and NCAA. Bozo emojis all over the place. Well, people like talking about this, the burgers, the pizzas, or whatever else. There's 4 level 2 violations. There has been this report of the burgers. And maybe that's what he's quote unquote lying about. But even if you just think about that, like every single person in the world that follows college football knows that you can't buy recruits anything. You can't give them money. Prior to name, image, and likeness, you're not allowed to do any of that. Like, I know that. And there's so many like fine details and everything with the NCAA and all this stuff, but everybody knew that. So doing it while knowing like that's the number one thing forever that you're not supposed to do, whether it was small or large. Doesn't seem like a real smart move to me. In addition, like I get like tweeting out or accidentally like slipping a recruit's name or oops, we didn't mean to do that. But their job is to know when the contact period is. So during a COVID period, knowing the rules, checking your rules, and then contacting two recruits, not a really good idea. So misleading about that or not remembering about that, that doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. And the other things too, having an analyst when you know they're not supposed to be able to coach, even though they are now, doesn't sound like a good idea. Watching a Zoom when you're not supposed to, like they all know those rules. Texting players when you're not supposed to. They got Kelvin Sampson fired at Indiana. You're supposed to know that. And so this additional, out there report about buying some burgers, that's another one. You can use that. Hey, we only jaywalked when other people are stealing cars. That's the justification. But I don't know if that, again, that's the route that you want to go. I think that they should try to make this go away, not get into a mudslinging match with the NCAA, but you're ready. Jason, they are trying to bring down Michigan because of their success. There's this phobia with Michigan fans that the NCAA, that the media, that the referees, that the Big Ten, that the NCAA is out to get Michigan. I've got news for Michigan fans right here. And I hate to say this because it makes it sound like that's what every fan base thinks, that the referees, that the conference, that their opponents, that everybody's out to get them. Here's the thing with Michigan. They're one of the biggest brands in all of college football. And if there's a team and a university that's going to be going to get the benefit of the doubt with refs, with the Big Ten, with the NCAA, it's actually going to be Michigan. So actually, they're in a good position to be able to get things like the benefit of the doubt. So this hysteria that somehow the NCAA or anybody else is out to get Michigan is nonsense. Just call up a friend of yours that might be a fan of another team. Everyone says the same thing. So, you have to, I'm not saying you got to pull your head out of the sand, Jason, you sound like every other Michigan fan that I talk with. But this idea, this conspiracy theory that everyone's out to get Michigan is not true. It's the opposite of that. Like the referees, the Lions fans, they were out to get us against Seattle. No, they effed up against Seattle. If there was a conspiracy theory, they would have been out to get Seattle, so they would have set up the Packers and the Lions for a winner-take-all situation. That would have been a nice conspiracy. But that's not actually the way it happened. Refs F up. You want your red letter, big programs and big brands, the big money makers, to be in there. The television executives wanted Michigan in that championship game. They really didn't want TCU. Those refs just, they just kicked it a bunch of times. I think they choked in that game with a lot of the calls. I don't think that was the number one reason that Michigan lost the game. And if you want to go out and take and want to win, do what Michigan did against Ohio State the last 2 years. Try not to let it come down. Easier said than done to a final call like in 2016 where it's close and razor thin and you're making the refs call it and they call it the other way and you can say, oh my God, these guys are all in the tank. Let's try to be real about this. But look, if you're in the situation where it's Michigan versus everybody, and everybody's out to get Michigan, and they're out to get Jim Harbaugh, then, who am I talking with? Account 22 says Mercedes and Bentleys are fine, but hamburgers are a no-go. How do you feel about the Michigan program breaking the rules? Well, they reported the rule breaking themselves. And I don't think that's a good look for them. I would want to know, why they're not dotting their I's and crossing the T's when it comes down to some of the stuff that they were doing. I would want to know why they're out there when every single person knows that you can't even throw down $5. It's if it's directly leading to some recruits. I would want to know why they're breaking those rules, but I also, let's put any team out there and look at some of these, secondary violations. Those things, they do happen. Michigan's the ones that reported it themselves. The thing that I don't know right now is about this, the cyber situation with the offensive coordinator in the football office on the day that the signing period opened up. I don't like that coincidence, but I don't know the whole situation there. I can just tell you that it doesn't look great. It doesn't look good. I don't know how bad that is. I don't like breaking the rules. But, it does happen. They say a lot of times, and I don't know about this, not about it being right or wrong. It's about how things are being handled. There's a saying that it's not about the crime, but it's the cover up. Now, I don't want to make this like an analyst coaching players about this, like, big crime, but it was against the rules, just like the texting, the contact, the Zoom, the analysts, the buying pizza for recruits. But how you handle it, this could have been water right under the bridge. Harbaugh is making this a situation. That's why he caught the level one to begin with. And now, he's, sticking his flag in the ground on the hill and saying, let's go. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a great idea to me. I didn't think the whole let's get up on the hill. This is transformative, not transactional. I didn't think that was a really good idea from Jim Harbaugh. Now, litigious standing your ground with the NCAA about lying, no lie, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me either. But look, my opinion, how I see it, it doesn't feel really good. Steve says nope to the interviews. He has tons of connections with the NFL. Is he not allowed to talk to them? Is he not allowed to interview with them? I mean, let's put talk in quotations. When you are in a contract negotiation and you said that you don't have any interest, or no, I'm sorry, not interest, that you're never going to talk, that you're never going to interview with the NFL again, and you pick up the phone, whether it was Carolina calling Jim Harbaugh or Harbaugh calling up Carolina, that seems to be pretty semantical. That seemed like an interview to me. The Broncos situation seemed like an interview. Yeah, when you're doing this, if you don't want to look like a liar, then yeah, interviewing with a team that has a head coaching vacancy. I don't know, like, Steve, are you just saying no? There is nothing to see there. I mean, tell me, is that really what you're saying? Because you're not the only one. That's a Michigan talking point. Here it is again. Jim actually wasn't lying. He was just talking with NFL teams that had coaching vacancies because he has connections with the NFL. I don't buy that. Do I buy that he was leveraging the NFL so he could get, the deal that he wanted? Now, those are the reports. Josh Henschke from the Maize and Blue Review was saying all along. I find it odd when there's about 10 other cards, leverage cards that you could play, that you pull out the trump card of, I'm going to go interview with the NFL. That seems odd to me, but it, potentially could be true. But I've got connections, and even though I said I would never interview, technically these weren't interviews. I was just talking with teams that had vacancies as a head coach. I mean, is that what you want me to? That's a hard ask for me, Steve. Now, look, it might be true. Maybe I'll just say maybe it's true. Maybe Steve and the rest of you are right. I'm like searching, like I'm a sucker. I'm like, let's just give Michigan a break. That to me, like, I don't believe it. But it's a hard ask for me. What's he supposed to do? I would say he's like, look, Denver, I'm not having a 2 hour. What is he talking about for 2 hours, Steve? This is what I would do. I'm just giving advice. I'm not really interviewing. It was called an interview. I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time with that one. I guess I could sit here and talk about that till the cows come home. But I don't know if it's going to do you any good or me any good. Trepa says, don't break the rules and we don't have to have these conversations. Well, that happened. Count 22 is now saying that if you are against the rule breaking, you sound like a Buckeye fan. Michigan has done far less cheating than most programs. Yeah, well, that might be true. Right now, they're the ones that are in the crosshairs, and how they handle this. Like, I don't know what kind of defense, and that does seem like Count 22 that this is the Michigan defense. What we have done is minor, and we're getting in trouble for it. Meanwhile, there are major things going on, and the NCAA is looking the other way. That's Michigan's argument. We're getting in trouble for jaywalking. Meanwhile, other programs are stealing cars. Leave us alone, even if jaywalking is illegal. So, you like that defense? All right. Here's C. Greg. You sound like someone with no knowledge of. I don't know if that's directed at me, Seagrass. So if you can complete your thought there and direct that, like I'm telling you my opinion, and I have this situation covered from front to back. So you're talking with somebody else, but I don't know who you're talking with. Who are you talking with? S. Gress or S. Gress West? Complete your thought. You're coming at me. I don't have any problem with that. Come on. I got big shoulders. Jason, the NCAA is just trying to bring down Michigan because of their success. I've been over that part. Contract negotiations at the highest level. Yeah, you're talking about what was going on with the lying to get his deal done for his contract. Yeah, well, I think that there is a point to that. And so that he had to say he was going to do this, even though it looked like he was going against his word. All right, Esgress, I'll go with that line of thinking. Why didn't you try, though, if you were his agent, to say, look, before we have the appearance of you going against your word, how about we try a bunch of other things? You say, well, what would those things be? How about we call up a couple of people in the media? Let's call up Mitch Albom and tell Mitch, dude, man, I'm trying to get this NIL sent through on this contract negotiation. I'm trying to get my coaches more money, and they're stonewalling me. Don't say you heard it from me. And then Mitch gets on the air and says, I got to tell you, I was talking to somebody close that's close to Michigan, and they're saying that this holdup with Harbaugh has, like, how about that? That's the move you make. You don't bring your last and your biggest card out. That doesn't make you look good. So I don't agree that was contract negotiations at the highest level. I would say, without being an expert in contract negotiations, I would say you played your big card when you didn't need to. It was damaging. That would have been the last resort that I would have gone to S. Greg West. I like the name. Ask Grass West. Let's get to some more. This is one of my favorite feedback people of all time of the Maize and Blue Review. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Detroit Sports Talk. He says, I'm kind of shocked. Being that they don't have the best recruiting classes, what exactly did they have to cheat for? If they cheated. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like if the two sandwiches that they bought were for Jaden Davis and that tight end that's going to be the number one player, maybe that, and they end up committing to Michigan, maybe it'll be worth it. And maybe that's why they're fighting it. I don't know. Right. This one, monkey see, monkey do, close your eyes. I like the emojis. I don't know who that's applying to and everything else. Jason says that's what this is all about. A dinner bill, question mark, laughing emoji. I don't know that. And neither do you. And if it is, Jim Harbaugh should just say it. I spent $10. I bought 2 recruits, a couple of hamburgers. Not, you know how many instances I can think in history where somebody was standing there, but I had their right hand in the air. I don't actually remember what happened. I disremember. I don't recall. Now, there are a lot of people. I don't have the sharpest brain and memory and everything else. But you know, the football coaches, one of the things that I found in almost all of them, especially the ones at the very highest level, I could go back and say, hey, Jim, how about that 3rd and 7 against Ohio State in '87 down in Columbus? And Harbaugh could do something like, yeah, well, we had Colzar split out to the left. It was a Y2 banana. I faked the Morris, and it sucked everybody in. And I threw it over the 35, and he went for 70 yards. And, there's 2:32 on the clock. Hey, Jim, what about a month ago when you bought a couple sandwiches for a couple recruits? I don't remember anything about it. All right. All right. I mean, right, Jason? Is that what we're talking about? Here's Jason. Level-headed Jason. It's always good to see him out here. All this crap is Feinbaum gold. The MSM, the NCAA will continue to talk about Pizzagate because it's U of M, yet turn a blind eye to the SEC. I work at Georgia. I see daily what those dudes get for free. Alarming emoji looking guy. I don't know. These are great. And my emoji game is getting better. Shocked look emoji guy. Yeah. Well, today, I was looking. They were on the Den, the Mason Blue Review posting board. There were Pat Forty had recapped recently what's been going on with Michigan from the Mozzie Smith situation to Matt Weiss to the Harbaugh contract negotiations to these level 2s and the level 1 that Harbaugh caught. And the Michigan fans were like, this guy's a hack. You think that is a hack. You just wait. You think Feinbaum coming over the top on Jim Harbaugh and talking about this, just wait. You're going to have people coming out of their holes everywhere talking about this. You don't want that. I don't think you want that. I know P.T. Barnum, like throwing balls in the air. And, he was famous for saying that, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I'll use this as an example of, this is bad publicity. But maybe not. So we will get to that in a moment. Miami's handing out kids a bag of cash, and the NCAA is mad at Michigan for a dinner bill. Here's the one thing that you need to remember. Most all of college football fans for a long time have wanted the players to get paid. And now even almost all college football fans want college football players to get paid, and half of the alumni want them to get paid. And this technicality about that they're promising it up front, nobody cares except Michigan. And so I don't know. It is ironic that they're getting snagged on the very hill that they're standing on and telling everybody that they shouldn't, be doing this because it's breaking the rule. And yet they broke the rule themselves, but it was a minor rule. So I don't know. It doesn't make me feel really great about the whole situation. But I know what you're saying. Richard is saying, no wonder why Jim Harbaugh is doing this every year. Maturity is supposed to come with name, image, and likeness. I don't know. Account 22 is big Michigan fan. Let's see what he says. That's not the case, Dennis. Michigan has been screwed by the refs more in the last 2 years than any other team. Yeah, I'll just let it. I get it. I'm not arguing. Like, how many times am I going to say that that's the way all fans think about their team? That's it. I'm just going to let it slide. Andres is not buying what I'm selling. That was a block by Trey Burke. It's been going on for a while. Here we go again. Lions versus the refs is so obvious. Let me tell you a little bit, account 22, how sports works in my lifetime, what I've seen. When I was a little guy, I can remember watching Ali, late in his career. And Ali, I remember I was watching a fight with my dad, and my dad said, and look, Ali was getting beat. But at the end, they went to the judges, and they were like, Ali wins it. And I was like, why did Ali win that? You know what my dad said? Because you got to knock the champ out to beat the champ. And then we were watching the Yankees, and Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs, and he beat the Dodgers in the 70s in the World Series. And my dad said, the Yankees get the calls because they're the New York Yankees. Roger Staubach, when he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys, would get a little bit of a leeway because he was a great quarterback. And the great players get the calls, and the iconic teams. That's not right, but they get the calls. Later on, when I started watching baseball and I was watching with some of my friends in high school, we were watching Greg Maddux pitch for the Braves in the playoffs. And they would, he would throw a pitch, and then, the ball looked like it would be a little bit outside. And here would go the umpire, strike. And you know what I would say? He's going to get the black because he's a great pitcher, and he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. What happens in sports, account 22, is that the iconic teams and the brand names and the champs and the great players, they get the benefit of the doubt. And it's unfortunate, when you spiral one way or the other, it can work for you. The Yankees, the Cowboys, we can name all it, Duke. It works for you. It works against you when you're at the opposite end of the spectrum. It's really easy to make a call against the Detroit Lions. They're the freaking Detroit Lions. They're going to really have to overcome that so that there is a bias against the Detroit Lions. I buy that. I think that was an example in 2014 when they lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Even though, they had their opportunities and everything else, I think that there was no doubt that the referees had some bias towards the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody wanted the Dallas Cowboys except, a few Lions fans. And so it was very easy to get them the call. Michigan is not in that situation, but that's the way it works. Funny part is I remember working as a referee at a Michigan basketball camp. And I'd never refereed before. You're supposed to have another partner, but it got where you're reffing 9 games a day. And sometimes the other ref wouldn't show. So it was just me out there the first time blowing a whistle, and these, it was a team camp. Well, these 2 really good teams went up against each other, and here I am. And I said, I'm going to make the call the best I can. I'm not going to try to be biased or anything. The first call, I got one of the, the coaches over there, you don't know your head from your ass. And I'm like, I think I blew it. I don't know. I made the call, travel or something. I said, hey, this is what I saw. And the guy came back at me, told me I was blind or something. I said, look, I can't have rabbit ears as a ref. I got to let that go because I might have missed it. But there was this one player going down the lane, throwing it behind. This is a great player. And you know what happened to me? And I think it's human nature. When you see like excellence, this player went down the lane. It was a women's camp. She went down the lane, made this spinning move, went up, and I don't know, there was a little contact there. You know what I did? Counted and the foul. I mean, she was great. I mean, I think I was a little biased because of her greatness. I was like, and one. I did it like Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun. I was over there, count it. It shouldn't have been that dramatic because the other coach was like, really? No. Okay, I'm off topic. I'm going to be here for 2 hours talking about this part. Let's get to where this might not matter for Michigan. And it comes in recruiting. Yesterday, the Hammer put out a tweet, Jennifer Hammond from Fox 2. It read that Jim Harbaugh met with 5-star 2024 recruit Dylan Raiola Tuesday in Arizona. 6'3", 225-pound junior who withdrew his commitment to Ohio State last month is the son of former Nebraska and Lions center Dominic Raiola. Now, this is really interesting to Michigan fans who know that they put all of their eggs in the Jaden Davis, Providence, Charlotte, North Carolina quarterback's basket. That's the one guy that they pursued anybody else. This is the guy. But Davis is lining up. Ohio State is going after Davis now. And Raiola decommitted, as the Hammer wrote, to Ohio State. And even though Matt Rule down at Nebraska, I think has his uncle on the staff, is coming after Raiola hard, and so too is Georgia. Now Jim Harbaugh is. So it's come down to, and Raiola is the number one quarterback in the country, clearly the number one player in Arizona, and the number one player overall in the country, Dylan Raiola. Number one. So if there's any player you'd say, well, you really want Jaden Davis, are you going to be mad if you're a Michigan fan and somehow they get a commitment from Dylan Raiola? I'm going to say no. You're going to say, look, you might have wanted Davis, but this guy's even rated higher. So what you have a situation boiling down to right now is that the 24 quarterback rankings, the number one overall QB is this guy I got pictured on the left, Raiola. And the number 6 overall player in the class of 24 is Jaden Davis. Now, you take either of these guys and you're happy. I think we can all agree on that. But if Michigan can land one of these guys tomorrow, this weekend, the next week, the next month, the next, I don't know, whenever, then all of this, and the thing that I'd say fearful about Harbaugh going up against the NCAA is just bad press, negative publicity. Other teams like, you're going to go to Michigan, who's embroiled in a controversy with the NCAA, with Harbaugh as a liar, and all of it. I mean, I'll repeat it again. But if one of these, specifically 2 quarterbacks, is like, I'm good, I believe in Harbaugh, I don't care about the NCAA and what he's saying, I'm good. This is going to answer a lot of questions about where Michigan's at with their name, image, and likeness, where they're at with the NCAA and this violation. And it takes them from being in a mucky situation with a lot of question marks about top players and the NCAA to being like right up on the mountaintop and looking up at everybody and flexing and being like, we're taking on everybody. Bring on the NCAA. Bring on Georgia. Bring it on. So that's why I think that they should try to move along and get, try to minimize the distractions as much as possible. But if they're able to go out there and land Davis or Raiola, that answers the questions. That's how I see it. All right, I'll read some more of your feedback, so get it in right now. Or you want to take a call, you can always do that if you're out there listening. I do want to remind everybody, you want to know what's going on right now with Michigan. Recruiting, Raiola, Davis, others in the 23 class, Nichols, Harbaugh, those kind of things. You want to know what's going on with everything with Harbaugh? Well, let's all say it together. The place to go is the Maize and Blue Review. Be in tune with Michigan in 2023. Join the Maize and Blue Review. Go to michigan.rivals.com and subscribe. And then show up on the Maize and Blue Review's den and talk about the Maize and Blue day and night. Weekdays, weeknights, we're there for you. It's a lot of fun. Let's get to some of this feedback, and then straight ahead, we will get to some Michigan basketball. They have a game coming up tonight. Riley typing in, if we broke all these rules, how do we not have a better class? Yeah. Jason, it's being investigated by campus police. LOL. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a federal case, so I don't know how that works. Like, Jason, maybe you're just saying that this Weiss situation is nothing. And I would say that hopefully you're right. I found it interesting, and maybe that's just a coincidence, or it can be explained really easy by, oops, the wrong login type situation. That's possible. Nothing. It could be nothing. I don't know that yet. So, but the part about it being the Michigan department, I did find it interesting that the U of M police chief said that when this crime occurred was December 21st to the 23rd, which is the exact same date that the open window for the early signing period is. I was like, I don't know. I'm no investigative journalist. I'm no expert on cyber white crime or whatever, but I looked at that and I don't know. I don't know. Okay, get into some others. Mr. Martini. Mr. Martini says the Broncos interview was to thumb his nose at Ward. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Martini, just to do that. You're going to come off. I would have said to him, if that is the case, which again, I don't think is, I would have said, there's a lot of other ways to thumb your nose at Ward than looking like you're going back on your word, but it's happened. And so that's it. Jason talking about the TCU game, saying that Michigan could have won by 21 if they played a mistake-free game. They played one of the worst games I've ever seen them play, and they had a chance down to the last minute, Jason. I mean, that's the frustrating part. We watched this team play 13 games, take the ball right down the field. We watched this quarterback come in McCarthy and play mistake-free football. We saw Michigan's offensive line fire off the ball and be able to get it into the red zone late. And anytime, when they ran into some issues like this team can't get touchdowns in the red zone, they started scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Late in the year, it was like, JJ's just not in tune with his receivers. They just don't have a downfield passing game. Ohio State game, in tune with a downfield passing game. They had everything answered heading into that game against TCU. It was such a setup so beautifully for Michigan. And then they played a game. They played their worst game, and they played the game that they hadn't played all year long. Coughing it up, pick sixes. McCarthy had only thrown 3 interceptions all year long. The one against Purdue, Michigan was up. That wasn't even a bad pick. The one against Penn State, it was a bad pick. But you could make a case that it was a fluky pick, the Penn State one that was returned for a touchdown, and the other one he was trying to force the ball in the end zone to Roman Wilson, I think, at Indiana. That's it. So I don't know. It's going to be a summertime topic. An entire week of why Michigan lost to LSU. Nah, maybe not. Mr. Martini, get John Ugeth Bacon on the phone and get some facts. I'm rolling with some facts, and I got my own facts. What about MG? Who's MG? What about MG? Who's MG? Here we go. Antoine. I'm going to say something about Antoine. I thought Antoine was so broken up about the loss to TCU. Like when I see Antoine every day, but like once a week, he checks in and we'll leave a feedback and and I remember in the summer, him telling me like, Ohio State looks like they're soft and Michigan can run the football on them. And it's like, wow, Antoine's really believes in this Michigan team. And then he was right. But then I didn't see him at all. My point to this with Antoine is that if you're somebody that's a frequent listener, I guess I don't know if you're a frequent listener. If you're somebody that uses the feedback frequently, and we all know your name, and if you decide that for whatever reason you're just not going to participate anymore in the show, just send a message one day. Have a friend. Maybe all of you should alert somebody in your life that once a week or so that you watch the Good Afternoon Michigan football show. And then if anything happens to you, or if you decide to go somewhere else, hey, could you show up on the Maize and Blue Review and just type in, hey, I'm Antoine's friend, and Antoine was just out working hard for the first couple weeks in 23 and didn't have a chance in the 1 o'clock hour to get at you. Or, if you're Antoine yourself and you are busy during the 1 o'clock hour, you can always go to my Twitter at Dennis50 and send me a direct message like, hey, man, I hadn't been able to jump in. Just wanted to say, everything's going fine. And that's it. Because there was a while, I'm like, wow, man, Antoine's really upset about that TCU game. Then I got to the second week and I'm like, wow, Antoine is just not getting over the game. And then it got to the third week and I'm thinking, what happened to Antoine? People are asking, on the feedback, where's Antoine? I'm seeing it every day and I didn't have an answer to the people about where he was. I didn't know. Here's what he's saying today. That's true, Dennis. Maybe he didn't have play his biggest, but at the same time, we all know that Michigan is slow to dance and stubborn to make moves when they should have been giving Jim a contract. It's Michigan's fault they didn't get this done. I don't know, Antoine. I think there's some shared responsibility here. And if you're making me stick to like that Michigan didn't have a contract, is it all on Jim or is it all on Michigan? I'm going to put it on that it was 80% on Harbaugh and 20% on Ward. Maybe not right at first, but you shouldn't be getting to this situation anyways. You should be having open conversations where you don't allow it to get to this point. Jason doesn't like that Michigan's 17th recruiting class, and he's looking at recruiting violations for Michigan. If anyone needs an investigation, it's Alabama. The MG reference is to Matt Geiss. I don't know. Matt Weiss? MW? I don't know who Matt Geiss. I'm sorry. Let's get to some more the feedback here. We got basketball coming up straight ahead. Hope we can land Nichols Harbor. South Carolina and Maryland want him to play defensive end. Michigan is only one of his top 3 that want him to play on offensive side of the ball, which is what Harbaugh wants. Yeah, I'll take your word for it, Brandon, that Michigan wants him to play on the offensive side of the ball. My understanding is that Michigan's like, hey, you want to come in and try it out on the offensive side of the ball? Okay. Most people that I talk with, I say this because I have talked with a few people. They think that Harbaugh would make the best version of himself is going to be as a rush linebacker. But if he really wants to play on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you'd be a great wide receiver too. So you say, come on. If Nichols Harbor to me said, I want to play quarterback in Michigan, I'd be like, all right, Nichols, you come on in. You want to play quarterback? Play quarterback. Then when he gets in here and he's competing at quarterback, I'd say, hey, how about you try a couple snaps at defensive end? Richard liked the argument with the Michigan fans versus the refs today. Account 22 loves the rivalry of the Lions versus the referees. Okay, couple more here. Richard indicating that to be the best version of myself, maybe I could work on my bias. I wonder at times, Richard, if I would go back, because I remember about 94 or 95. I think it was 95. I picked Michigan to beat Ohio State. They were a huge dog. I was going to the game. Biaka Matuka had 313 yards. Wilson with a couple picks. And then after the game, I was on the radio telling people, hey, I picked Michigan. And the guy I was working with, Doug Karsh, said, you don't have any credibility. You always pick Michigan. And I thought, you know what? He's right. I do always pick Michigan. It was true. Every time something with Michigan came up, like, who do you like? Michigan. Every game. Let's pick the game. So you're going to pick Michigan. So I decided at that point, like, do I just always want to pick Michigan? No, I want people to, when I say something about the team, I want them to know that I can look at it and give them an honest assessment. So I worked from that time forward on my own, how I was going to try to present myself when I was on the air. And I've continued that. And while I am a Michigan fan, and I like root for Michigan, when you cover a team, and I've now found this when I started out at Michigan, and I thought like I had to go into Lloyd Carr's office, and at times I had to ask him some tough questions. Why did your captain get his captaincy pulled? And so those are some tough things that you have to answer. Did you think about going for it in a press conference and standing up and nobody's asking Lloyd why did he ever think about going for the letting Minnesota score? And he had to look over me and tell me I was crazy, in front of other people. And if you're a big Michigan homer, you just sit there and say, hey, coach, great job. Anything you say, you never ask any tough questions because you're a big homer. And then I worked in Detroit. I found that I could be more of a Michigan fan because I wasn't directly there talking with the coach. And what I found when I had to go down into the Tigers manager's office, and I walked up to Jim Leland and asked him why, he took his starter out in the 5th inning, he'd say, what now? And, so, I'm a big Tigers fan, but I couldn't necessarily bring the pom-poms into Jim Leland's office. I had to ask him tough questions. So I'll stay with the way it's been a long time. And maybe I've seen people in this very market, or the whole Michigan media, wearing their hats to press conferences. People that went to Michigan, saying we and it's worked out for them. They're making more money than I am. But I think in the end, Richard, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't. I'd stay the same way. I don't have any regrets that way. Ken, Las Vegas gets the benefit. There's no doubt. All right. I think we've gone through this a lot. People talking about other sites. Here's blank. Says, I don't think they're getting Raiola. I think it's a tactic to put pressure on Davis. Yeah, I agree. I think that is you know, you want to get somebody to go to the dance and, you ask them and, the girl's like, I don't know. I don't know. You know what you do? You go over to her best friend and you ask her. Little game of chicken there. What's coming down to. Here I am breaking the rule. I say this a lot, to leave the relationship comparisons and football out of there. But, sometimes, you can't help yourself. You just do it. You do it anyways. And that's what I did there. All right. So tonight, it's going to be fun. You got Michigan taking on Maryland. It's a 7:00 tip. The Terps are favored by 3. When you look through Michigan and you look at some of the numbers, the ratings percentage index has Michigan 88th in all of college basketball today, and they check in 12th in the Big Ten. They're going to need some wins to move up the RPI rankings. Maryland, meanwhile, is 43rd RPI-wise, and that is 4th in the Big Ten. So they got a good RPI. Meanwhile, Ken Pom has Michigan at 53, which is 10th in the Big Ten, and Maryland at 43 Ken Pom-wise, which is 9th in the Big Ten. The thing to remember about this game is that Michigan on New Year's Day, the previous Thursday, had lost to Central Michigan, and they were a disaster. They started out the new year, and they beat Maryland by 35 points. They jumped out to a 17-0 lead. Hunter Dickinson, when he plays against Maryland, he is dialed in, especially when he goes to Maryland. He is, when he plays at Maryland. Maryland didn't recruit Hunter Dickinson to his liking. And he is fired up to stick it to him. Everything that he is about in motivation is Hunter Dickinson against Maryland. Like, I would predict a 30-15 game again from Hunter Dickinson. This game he wants. And that's why I think Michigan is going to win it. I wanted to say something about a Michigan man who passed away this week. His name is Mike King. He's also known as High Octane Mike. I have a picture of him in a race car, and it's two of the things that he loved the most, along with fishing and his family. I would actually put family first and then fishing. This guy, High Octane Mike King, loved Michigan and loved NASCAR. Fortunately, Mike passed away this week. A shock to me. And in Michigan circles and in Ann Arbor, nobody better than High Octane Mike. I salute him. And I dedicate this show to High Octane Mike. Don't forget this, that coming up tonight after the Michigan basketball game tips at 7, so around 9:15-ish, on this very feed, I'll be talking about the game. So if you are a big Michigan basketball fan and you just can't get enough, join us then. And we'll talk about what transpires. Hey, thanks, Kenneth. Appreciate it. Let's do it. We got some shout outs. Let's get to it. I'm a Michigan Wolverines fan, me and Steven and Elisa. Hey, what's up, Scott? Let's see what Detroit says. That's exactly why I stopped coming in here. Yeah, I noticed you weren't coming in anymore either, a Detroit Sports, but I thought it was because you had launched your own podcasting show. And I don't know if you heard this, but I said it a week or so ago. I was watching some YouTubes, and a dude showed up. I say a dude, sitting in his car talking about Michigan. And his name it wasn't Detroit or DWA, but it was very close to that. And I thought, that's Detroit Sports Talk, talking about Michigan. And so I watched it a little bit longer than maybe I normally would, and I thought the guy did a good job. So if it was you, I would say nice job, and continued success and all of that. If it wasn't, somebody got to jump on you, and I thought it was you. So there you go. Okay, yeah, nobody can stomach that the game. I'm right with you on that. All right, so tomorrow, and maybe this story will be done sooner than later. This Harbaugh versus the NCAA. I'm already sick of it. So, and it just happened. Everybody have themselves a great day. We'll talk with you after the basketball game tonight. Thanks for watching. And if you're listening